Hi BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I am coming to you with the first in a series of videos I'm going to be doing this month on my channel called The Beginner's Guide to Romance. This series is nowhere going to be completely inclusive. It is nowhere going to be the end-all be-all. I just think this is a great jumping off point for people if you are new to the romance genre and you are looking for recommendations, where to start, things like that. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about genres, romance genres. Also, coming up in this series of videos, I am going to be doing a video on storylines and or tropes, different storylines and tropes that are found within romance. I'm also going to be doing a very much requested video on the Harlequin imprints and breaking down. I did a video not that long ago called Why I Love Category Romance, but this video coming in a few weeks is going to be much more inclusive. I'm going to go through each individual imprint, whether it's still being published or not, because often you can find these at thrift stores, and you might want to dive into some of the older lines. So I'm going to kind of break them down line by line or imprint by imprint and what they're all about and what you can be on the lookout for. And then at the end of the month, a very special video, I'm going to be doing a collab video with my other co-hosts for the Summer Fling with our favorite authors. So kind of just a nice recommendations video of favorite authors. So I do hope that you guys enjoy this series. I will do more of these in, the months to come. If there's something you want me to break down even more or get more in depth with, please let me know in the comments below and I will add them to my list. I haven't done them in a few months, the videos in a few months, but I do have what I'm calling a series that I'm calling Viewers Request, where you guys request things to me and I will do videos on them. So I do plan on getting back to those in September. But for the month of August, because it is the Summer Fling, I kind of wanted to really do this Beginner's Guide to Romance. So let's jump in and get started with this one. I think this is going to be really fun. Now, again, this is not the end-all be-all. This is not, the Holy Grail or anything at all like that. But in my opinion, from my understanding, there are three main... Sorry, I've got some books here beside me to show you guys. There are three main types or genres within the romance genre itself. So you've got romance as the umbrella, and then coming down off of that are different subgenres and things like that. So in my opinion, even those subgenres can be, of course, broken down even more so you can get very refined to what it is that you're actually looking for. So the first one I'm going to talk about is my favorite personally, and that's why I want to start there, and that is, of course, contemporaries. Contemporary romance novels are my bread and butter. They are my very favorite thing to read, and they are exactly as they say they are. They are contemporary. They take place now. Generally, there are a lot of different sub-contemporaries. There is romantic comedies. There are small town. There are cowboy romances. Not saying that you can't find these in the other subgenres, but I'm just saying, for contemporary romances, you get a lot of, oftentimes you get a lot of the secret baby trope within this. You get a lot of the marriage of convenience are found in here. The Harlequin, not to get too much into the imprints, but the Harlequin Presents novels, which are right there, those are very much, of course, contemporaries as well. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about when I say contemporaries. These are, like I said, my favorite. There's just something about them that makes me very, very happy. A lot of series, some of my very favorite series are contemporaries. The Heartbreaker Bay series by Jill Shalvis. The, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. I do have a few things written down, but I'm trying to go mostly off the top of my head on this one. The Lakeshore Chronicles series by Susan Wiggs. Kristen Higgins's books are all contemporaries. Her older stuff, not her newer women's fiction. I will get into women's fiction in just a little bit. But yeah, contemporaries are my bread and butter. They can often get spicy too, you guys. So do keep that in mind. You can go with a contemporary all the way from an Amish book. An Amish book would absolutely be considered a contemporary because even though we kind of think Amish as being old-fashioned, they are, unless it's a historical, they are very much rooted in modern day. Like, they live within the confines of modern society as practicing their own faith in their Amish communities, but they are still, you know, oftentimes you will get books that, the Amish books, that they will take a trip into town and there's somebody with a car or what have you. So they are contemporary in that aspect, all the way to the other end of the spectrum to your dark, taboo romances. Those are also contemporaries. A lot of can also be contemporaries, excuse me. You know, I cannot speak on the darker end of the romance spectrum, as that's not generally the end that I read on. But definitely check out some of my co-hosts for the Summer Fling. Jen from the Book Refuge, Izzy from Happy for Now, I think she reads a bit darker. And of course, Nicole from Who Picked This Book, she reads a bit darker. So, you know, and from there, they have, I know Jen has been putting out a lot of great recommendations videos on the darker end of romance, if you're interested in checking that out. But like I'm saying, like, you can go from one end to the other within contemporary. It is a huge, huge arc of books that you could be reading from. But if you much prefer, you know, stuff set in kind of modern day, then you want to pick up contemporary. Next up, coming in a very close second for me, are, of course, historical. Historicals are probably the ones that most people think about when they think of romance novels. The bodice rippers, the ones with Fabio on the cover. You know, the long flowing hair and the flowing shirt, sometimes on a pirate ship. Those are historical romances. And a lot of the times, this one I have in front of me, which is From Duke Till Dawn by Eva Lee. This one does not have a step back, but a lot of times some of them will have like a step back where you open it up and then there's another picture on the inside. You can find these a lot at thrift stores and stuff like that. And again, within the historical romance genre, you can go from a sweet and clean historical. They do have them. If you look at the older Regency novels, I know Steve Donahue, they are his favorite. I think they were published by Signet. They are very chaste, very sweet, nothing more than, you know, maybe a kiss. That's as spicy as they get, all the way up to, again, the darker side of romance, which I believe, again, to plug Jen, recently did a video on darker historicals, so you can check that out. There are a wealth of great authors, again, within the historical genre. This author I have actually not read before. I'm reading this one for Summer Fling, which is why I wanted to show it to you guys right now. But some of my favorites are Tessa Dare. I highly recommend Tessa Dare. Lisa Kleypas, I think, is a staple within the historical romance reader community. Julia Quinn holds a special place in my heart because of the Bridgerton series. The Duke and I was the very first historical I ever read, and it is still one of my favorites. I know some people find it problematic. There are parts of it, and I can understand why, but it still holds a special place in my heart. I absolutely love it. Laurie Robinson, who writes for the Harlequin historical line. She is fabulous. Excuse me. She writes, like, this is a World War II novel, Diary of a War Bride, and I recommend this one to everybody. It is amazing. I will talk more about this one in the Harlequin video that I do, or the category romance video that I do. But she writes everything from World War II. She writes the Roaring Twenties. She writes, I think she wrote a book that takes place in Salem, Massachusetts. When you think of Salem, in that time in Salem in the 1600s. So, you know, there is a wide range, and that's the other cool thing about historicals. Most people think of the Regencies as well, but there is a whole host of other types of historical romances. There are medieval romance, Viking romances. There are Westerns. Westerns are one of my favorites. I love the American West. Like I said, Laurie Robinson wrote stuff that took place in the 1920s. There are historicals that are set, you know, during World War II, of course, or World War I, excuse me. I just saw some recently being published by Harlequin that were set in ancient Egypt. Like, whatever your preference is, or whatever you think you might be interested in, you know, maybe they're not going to be 100% historically accurate, but they are still a delight to read, and I highly recommend them. So the next one is, I don't actually have a book for, because it's not a genre that I generally read, but I wanted to mention it here. Again, do a search, you know, on YouTube for paranormal romance recommendations. I know that J.R. Ward is big for the paranormal. The paranormal, you're getting more your vampires, your shifters. Oftentimes they are darker. I think that they are the one subgenre that really doesn't have a lighter side to it. I think that they often, now I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments below. But I don't think they generally go very light. I think most of the time they tend to stray to the darker end of the spectrum, because that's the nature of paranormal. You know, if you read science fiction or fantasy generally doesn't end up being light and fluffy. It ends up being darker and, you know, more intense, if you will. So those are the three big ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Now, along with that, I thought I would do a little sub chat on if you are brand new to romance and you kind of want to dip your toes in, but you're not absolutely sure where to go and you're like, I don't know if romance is really my thing. I'm going to kind of break it down to a few other little categories, if you will, that might be something that you might be interested in checking out. The first thing is going to be Chiclet. The Big and Little Festivals, the book I have here by Kelly Hales. There are a lot of UK authors. I always think of the UK authors, and I always think of these kind of covers with these cutesy little names that are Chiclet. One of my absolute favorites is, of course, Tilly Tennant. Whereas they're writing a story, it's oftentimes a very sweet story, and it contains a romance, and it's a little bit more humorous. That's how there is a fine line between Chiclet and women's fiction. I'm going to talk about women's fiction in just a minute. There is a fine line, and my opinion is that fine line tends to be that Chiclet does focus a bit more on the romance, but it's much, much lighter, and I don't know what it is that makes it different from a standard contemporary romance, but there is something about it. They just seem almost a little bit more whimsical, and I know that's a hard way to define it, but it's the only way that I can think about it. And if you are new to romance and you're just wanting to kind of dip your toes in, and you like stuff that's really light, really fluffy, deals with friendships, deals with family, deals with romance, then I recommend that you check out some Chiclet novels. These are fantastic. Again, they're published by HQ, which is Harlequin in the UK, and they are delightful. Like I said, Tilly Tennant, if you are looking for somewhere to start, I only have a couple of her books physically, and they're over on another shelf over there, or else I would have grabbed that one. And they're Christmas ones. But the one I read recently by her that was a non-holiday book is called The Waffle House on the Pier, and it was delightful, and I recommend it. It was a great second chance romance. But yeah, Chiclet is definitely a really, really fun sub-genre, if you want, that I really enjoy. The other sub-genre that I just mentioned was, of course, women's fiction. So here I've got Laurie Foster's Sisters of Summer's End. Now, again, I said there is, like, it's a very gray area between Chiclet and women's fiction. And I think women's fiction tends to deal with a bit more harder hitting issues. Perhaps divorce, maybe infertility, infidelity is another one. They oftentimes center around a family. So mainly what you're seeing with women's fiction is you've got your main character. And, you know, in this case, it's about two sisters. And the bulk of the book, if you were to ask me what this book is about, the book is about the relationship between the two sisters. And, you know, things like that. But along with that is a romance. Whereas a Chiclet novel, if you were to ask me what this is about, it's about the romance between so-and-so. But this definitely deals more with the family aspect or a friendship aspect or whatever the situation is. A romance just also happens to be included in here. Now, I can speak on this one for Laurie Foster. She is known in the contemporary, she writes a lot of contemporary romances as well. And her contemporaries can get very, very hot and spicy. Even the ones that are considered lighter. So that's the other thing is, don't mistake when I say a light romance to mean something that is not spicy. Jill Shalvis, in my opinion, writes romances on the lighter side. You know, they're about friendships, they're about, you know, friends to lovers, they're things like that. But they're definitely like, they make you really, really happy. They're just happy to read. And they get very graphic. They can get very graphic and very, very spicy. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, your more taboo romances tend to be a little darker. They tend to be a little grittier. You know, when I say darker, that's what I mean by darker, grittier, you know, often like underbelly, mafia, things like that. So they're not, you know, the light and happy stuff. But that's what I mean when I say light and dark. So, sorry, I kind of went off on a little tangent there. Maybe I should have written stuff down. Doesn't matter. This is, you guys know how I do videos. And again, as I always say, any comments or questions you want me to clarify anything, just post it in the comments below. I promise I will reply to you. So yeah, so like I was saying, these tend to be, oh yeah, that was it. Laurie Foster writes some very, very spicy contemporary romances. And this one does get spicy. So, you know, oftentimes with women's fiction, it veers away from the more graphic adult content. Whereas this one, you do touch on it a bit more because that's what Laurie Foster's kind of known for. But it was still really good. I mean, look at that cover, you guys. It's absolutely adorable. So, yeah, this one's a lot of fun. And the last sub-genre that I want to get into is one that I don't think most of you would expect me to mention in this video, but I was just looking through my bookshelves, grabbing a couple things to show you guys, and I saw this and I thought, you know what? Yeah, let me talk about these really, really briefly. So, this is a subgenre that a lot of people are familiar with. Courtney from The Cortagonist built her entire channel pretty much on cozy mysteries. So, yes, I'm going to talk about mysteries in a romance genre video. The reason I'm going to talk about cozy mysteries is because oftentimes there is romance within these. So, yes, you are getting this great cozy mystery, and at the heart of the story, if you were to ask me again, what is the story about? Oh, it's about, you know, some guy that was killed and Hannah, our amateur sleuth, is going to find the killer. But within this, overarching throughout the series, there is a romance. And she's actually in the middle of a love triangle, in a way, in these ones. A lot of different cozy mysteries do delve into some romance within them. And it's very chaste. You're not getting generally, none that I have read, are you getting any graphic adult content. So if you are kind of new and you want to read a little bit of romance and you're not sure where to start, and you prefer things to be a little bit on the cleaner side, not so graphic, I would honestly start with a cozy mystery, and then maybe work your way up to a Chiclet novel. You know, kind of a nice stepstone progression. Up until you get to Lisa Renee Jones, who writes some very, very, very spicy contemporary romance. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention them in passing because I think that they deserve a mention, because I don't think when people talk about the contemporary or the cozy mysteries, they really delve into the romance. And especially if you're reading a cozy mystery series from the beginning and you're working your way story by story through the series, you're watching that romance progress. Whereas in most contemporary romances, start to finish, the couple that you meet on the first page is the couple that ends up together on the last page. Whereas in this case, the romance aspect of it isn't often, you know, finalized at the end of the book. You got to go to the next book kind of an idea. So that's kind of fun. So yeah, so I just wanted to mention that in passing. But anyway, guys, oh, the last thing I want to talk about before I let you go for this video is I wanted to do a little discussion / rant on new adult. I have talked about new adult before on my channel, and I hear a lot of people say, oh, the new adult genre. I'm just going to give my 2 cents. Again, if you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. We can agree to disagree. New adult is not a genre. New adult is an age group. Same with YA. YA is also an age group. It also bugs me when people talk about YA as being a genre. YA, if you look in the YA section of your bookstore, you can find everything from mysteries to historicals to contemporaries to sci-fi to, you know, I'm thinking like, you know, everything from Sarah Dessen to Sarah J. Maas. Would you really put Sarah Dessen's books and Sarah J. Maas's books or Cassandra Clare's books all within the same genre? No, they're not the same genre. They are written for a specific age group, a YA age group. And I'm not saying that if you are outside of that YA audience that you can't read YA. You absolutely can. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you are 12 and you're reading Stephen King. Or I don't care if you're 62 and you are enjoying, you know, a Sarah J. Maas book. I think that's fantastic. Read whatever makes you happy. But what's bothering me is the need for people to now label these things as a genre. They're not a genre. You can say it's a YA sci-fi, or you can say that it's a YA contemporary. You know, that's fine. Break it down. But when I hear it in videos, it literally, you know, kind of makes me cringe. Same with new adult. New adult seems to be a new thing. I don't think it was around a few years ago, and I think it's because a lot of the readers that grew up reading, now I don't know if this is the case in fact, but my personal thoughts on this are that those people who grew up reading like the Twilight books and stuff like that, you know, years ago when they were in high school or in middle school, and they're now getting older, and they don't necessarily want to jump right into something like this. They are trying to bridge the gap for them. Publishers are bridging the gap. And they are now releasing these books that it's a very small period of time. It's like the first few years of college is what's considered to be new adult. I have seen some new adult books, like labeled as a new adult book. The characters are in their 30s. That's not new adult. That is adult. You know, by then, society assumes you should have your stuff together. I am 41 and I still do not have all my stuff together. But, you know, I think that that's what new adult is. And again, within new adult, generally most of them are romances, which is why I think it gets lumped together as a genre. But it's really, truly not. Because you can get new adults, they're harder to find, but you can get on the lighter side new adult stuff without a lot of adult content. But most of the new adult stuff tends to be very, very explicit. And I don't understand why. If you are looking to bridge the gap for people between what they read in middle school and high school into more adult works, maybe you should offer, you know, a wider range of topics, of, you know, storylines, of stuff that isn't maybe so graphic in nature. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just kind of wanted to mention it, that it's something that bothers me, and that's why I didn't list new adult as a genre. Again, it's an age group. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As I said, sorry, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I will do my best to get back to you. I also wanted to mention very quickly, I was going to wait until Friday, but I won't. I'm going to do it now because I don't want you guys scrambling at the last minute on Friday when I do my Friday reads. But this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on my channel here, I am going to be doing a special live show. I'm going to have the lovely Bree from Bree Hill. Her Instagram is Falling for Romance. And I'm going to have Chloe from Always Booked. And I'm going to have Rainy from Rainy Day Reads and myself. And we might have another special guest with us. And we're just going to be talking, romance. Now, Rainy's one who doesn't read a lot of romance. So we're even going to be giving her some recommendations. So if you guys have any questions that you'd like us to answer on that live show, also post those below, and I will hold on to them, and I'll wait and answer them on Friday. So, you know, you of course can watch it with us on Friday, or you can watch it at a later date. But if you join us on Friday, you can definitely comment in the comment section, and we'll talk back to you guys. And, you know, we can kind of answer on the go if you have questions you want to wait till then to ask. All the things. So do stay tuned for that live show coming up on Friday. So that's all I have, guys. Take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.